Hello everyone, it's John from Brisbane, and today I'm going to talk about, I listened to the first episode of Sporadically Board, which is a new podcast by Dan Hughes and Mike DeLisio, and it's a good listen to. It's entertaining. It filled up over an hour worth of time, so for those, I can certainly recommend it. But two of the things that came up, during that episode were things that I found interesting, and the first one is in relation to board game collections. Now, I find that a lot of people, I don't know, they don't think about either the bad times or when they get to my age and they're pensioned off or they're retired. Your collections will mean everything that you have, because not everybody, I guess, is going to have the wealth or the capacity to be able to keep up with the madness that's currently going in relation to board games, with so much being produced, and just, you know, what do you actually part with? And I confess I'm a hoarder. I don't like to part with things. However, that being said, I've also given away so much during my lifetime to so many people that, sometimes I really do regret my generosity. But I look at it and think, well, somebody else is appreciating what I've given them. And that in itself is reward enough. But it's really one of those things where I don't know whether or not many people have actually thought about when the good times stop, when you've got no more money. I've now reached an age where it just dawned on me the other day that I've been playing games seriously, not as not as a 5-year-old who's playing a silly little game. Well, not that they're silly little games. Well, they probably were back in my day, but the games today, and my involvement within the community, or the gaming community within Brisbane, I've been doing this for 40 years. And over that period of time, I've acquired quite a lot, and most of it has been at the time that it was released. I'm not some Johnny-come-lately who suddenly gets a passion for board games and goes, look, my collection's, 300 games. Well, my collection, I think, is probably about that. I can't remember what it is now, but it's fairly substantial. But most of my games are from probably from the 80s onwards. I have a few titles that are from the 70s, but the bulk of my games continue on from there. But I'm now in a unique position where I have everything that I need to be able to keep myself amused. So I think that people with board game collections need to think about that. I think that they just think that not many people think about the future, I think, which is a problem. People live for the here and now, and they don't worry about whether or not, what's it going to be like when they're suddenly retired. I think a lot of people think that they're not going to be doing the hobby, or that, it won't be as important. But look at me, 40 years, and it's still a major part of my life, and I certainly won't be giving it up anytime soon. So that's my thoughts with relation to board games. I think people really do need to have a think before they start paring down their collections of what's going to happen when I retire. What are you going to do? Some people, who knows? But that's my thought. Now, the other topic that came out was burnout. And when I started to see the articles and I saw what people were putting up, and I could do nothing but shake my head, because here we go. And please bear in mind, this is my opinion, is that people today love to play the victim. They play the victim and they don't seem to want to take responsibility. It was their decisions that placed them in the position that has put them into burnout. And I think that people need to sit back and have a look at, if you're running creative content through whatever means, is that if you're doing it for fun and it's a hobby, keep it at that level. Don't change. Okay? You need to remember that people follow you because of what you're producing. Now, if you suddenly start to get, well, maybe not suddenly, but if you're getting more and more people following you, or that, you're getting a certain, so shall we say, lean of people that are, of a particular aspect these days that are becoming more and more vocal and demanding, and you change your content just to meet those well, I can think of a lot of uncharitable words I'd like to call them, but I won't. But it's to the level that you need to, you are either running it as a business, in which case you charge and you realize that this is a business. And when it becomes a business, no matter how much you like to think that it's your hobby still, it's not. It's a business. You're having to produce a product, which means that there's expectation from your client, and you then eventually lose the love. There'll be the rare individuals who won't, but you just have to look at the business statistics for how many businesses start up and fail. It applies no differently to the the online creative community for games and things like that, which I think people don't seem to want to acknowledge. And that really does need to, people need to have a think about what it is that they're doing. Now, I myself, if I was, well, I'm running my own little YouTube channel. I don't expect many people. I primarily took it up because it was part of a therapy option that one of the doctors suggested that I do to help with my mental illness. And I'm looking at it purely as something that will keep me happy. I don't, if anybody else finds what I'm doing of interest, that's good. But I'm certainly not going to be changing the way how I do things or how I pump things out. And I think that's what people need to sit back and have a look at, is your own welfare in the whole process. Big difference between doing it as a hobby and that of running it as a business where you're taking money from people and providing a service. So they're the two things I think that I found interesting, with this business with burnout. Don't play the victim. You're ultimately the individual that has placed yourself in a position where you are burnt out. And that's it. You just look at, in the real world, what do I keep talking about real world? It is the real world we live in, but with people who work for a living as a tradesman, or a teacher, or a nurse, or a doctor. If you invest too much of yourself into your work, you need to think, where am I going to be going? Where's my career? Okay, so that's, for instance, with a tradesman or with a doctor or a teacher, you've got a career path. So that, you put in the extra work or whatever, the increases that you will get with your pay will be commensurate, obviously, to the skill level that you put in. Now, obviously with YouTube and doing podcasts or video blogs or doing blogs, doesn't have that career path. Because ultimately the other thing that people need to realize is that you've only got a brief time in the sun. And that's all it is. You might have 5 years, I don't know. I don't know what the average lifespan of some content creators are. I suppose that's something that should have, people should go have a look at. But you need to realize that you will never always be popular. You will never be at the top. And as such, make your content what you're wanting to be happy with yourself. And if people follow you, well and good. Be happy with that. If you've only got 5 people or 1 million people, don't change what you're doing just because the million odd people, you're worrying about, am I going to be popular tomorrow? Am I going to be still getting the people? Am I still going to be making money, or, whatever? That's the thing. And as I said, don't stop playing the victim. Take responsibility with your burnout yourself, because ultimately a good tradesman does not blame his tools for his or her, I should make that gender neutral, shouldn't I? But that's what my thoughts are with regards to burnout. So that's pretty much summed it up. This is, I think, about the 12th take I've made of this, because when I've started to talk, I've deviated, and deviated well, I can tell you that much. I had to go, nope, people don't need to hear that. And that's just how I've, it's one of those things. But thank you very much for listening, and till next time, signing off, the Honourable John.